you folks out there. We're gonna sing a little bit. So if you guys would stand and join us. Nothing can separate. Even if I ran away, your love never fails. I know I still make mistakes, but you have new mercies for me every day. Your love never fails. You stay the same. You stay the same through the ages. Your love never changes. There may be pain in the night, joy comes in the morning. And when the oceans rage, I don't have to be afraid, because I know that you love me. Your love never fails. The wind is strong and the water's deep, but I'm not alone here in these open seas. Your love never fails. The chasm is far too wide. I never thought I'd reach the other side. Your love never fails. You stay the same. You stay the same through the ages. Your love never changes. There may be pain in the night, but joy comes in the morning. And when the oceans rage, I don't have to be afraid, because I know that you love me. Your love never fails. Sing, you make all things. You make all things work together for my good. And you make all things work together for my good. And you make all things work together for my good. And you make all things work together for my good. You stay the same through the ages. Your love never changes. There may be pain in the night, but joy comes in the morning. And when the oceans rage, I don't have to be afraid, because I know that you love me. Your love never fails. Your love never fails. Your love never fails. Your love never fails. innocence of wrong, my sin washed away in your blood. Too much to make sense of it all. I know that your love breaks my fall. The scandal of grace, you died in my place, so my soul will live. Oh, to be like you, give all I have just to know you. Jesus, there's no one besides you. Forever the hope in my heart. Death, where is your sting? Your power is as dead as my sin. The cross has taught me to live. In mercy, my heart now to sing. The day and its trouble shall come. I know that your strength is enough. The scandal of grace, you died in my place, so my soul will live. Oh, to be like you, give all I have just to know you. Jesus, there's no one besides you. Forever the hope in my heart. And it's so because of you, Jesus. It's so because of you, Jesus. It's so because of your love that my soul will live. And it's all. And it's so because of you, Jesus. It's so because of you, Jesus. It's so because of your love that my soul will live. And oh, to be like you, give all I have just to know you. Jesus, there's no one beside you. Forever the hope in my heart. And oh, to be like you, give all I have just to know you. Jesus, there's no one besides you. Forever the hope in my heart. Well, good morning, you guys. You guys can grab a seat. We're going to have Logan come up and share some announcements with us.
All right. Good morning, guys. Welcome to Cornerstone. You made it to another Sunday. Spencer, what's up, my man? Shout out from the stage. Hey, welcome to Cornerstone. If this is your first time here, special welcome to you. We're really excited to have you join us today for worship. One thing, or you can do a couple things for us just so we can connect with you. There is a Connect card in the back of the seat in front of you. It's a blue card. It says Connect card on top. If you could fill that out and just drop that in the offering as it comes by later in service, we'd love to just shoot you an email or a text or a call this week and just welcome you to Cornerstone and answer any questions you may have. Also, outside the main entrance there, you probably saw on your way in, there's a welcome booth. Someone will be out there after service in case you have any questions about Cornerstone or just want to connect with someone about the church. So welcome today especially, guys. So we have some exciting stuff coming up that's going on in our church. The first and most exciting on the list, maybe, is the men's hiking trip. Yeah. So on Saturday, November 11th, our guys are getting together. Jason Tank's leading us, I believe, on a hike. And it's just going to be a great time. There's a flyer and information in the back and sign up in the back. But, man, it's just a great time for us to connect as guys. It's not going to be like climbing a mountain hike where, you're like connected to a rope, so it's not that difficult. It's acceptable for all ages and whatnot. So make sure to sign up for that, guys, especially after our men's retreat. This would be a great opportunity for us guys to continue to connect. I want to share with you guys an outreach opportunity that's actually happening this coming weekend. You guys have probably heard about it by now, but we're doing a homeless outreach. It's actually coming out of our neighboring series, we want to do something really practical to hey, we're going to love our neighbors well. So we're actually going to be going down to downtown LA. We're going to be doing some homeless feeding. So if you want to sign up for that, the sign-up's in the back. Also, you guys can bring food for it. There's a list of things in the back as well as in Sam's email. You don't have to sign up in order to bring food. You could just drop off food anytime this week, or maybe you're coming to Women's Bible Study on Wednesday. You could drop it off then. But just really encourage you guys to get involved. It's going to be a great opportunity. We're just going to come here. We're going to make sandwiches and put some bags together, and then we're going to go out and hand them out. It's not going to take too much of your day, but it's going to be a great opportunity for us to connect together, but also just to love the people around us well. So information is in your bulletin. The sign-up's in the back for that. Our ladies, we got our women Christmas dinner coming up. Woo woo! That got more excitement than men's hike. Come on. But that's coming up. That is on Saturday, December 2nd. Save the date. That's $25. I believe the signups are in the back now. Or you can email Stacy for more info, or just grab any of the ladies around here and be like, hey, you're going to the Christmas dinner, right? And they're going to be like, yes, I am. Because Christmas dinner is awesome. Us guys are going to be serving the ladies of the church, which is always fun. Always a couple disasters in there, but you guys won't know about it until after, which is awesome. So make sure you save that date. It's going to be awesome coming up, and sign-ups and more information will be coming soon. Actually, today after service, something you can get involved in is we're going to have our monthly prayer meeting, something we've been doing for several months now, and it's just a great opportunity for us to come together as a church and just really just rely on God, right? Rely on God's wisdom for us to come together as a community and pray together. If you haven't attended one of these yet, it's not super weird. Just so you know, it's not the super weird thing. We're just going to come together and we're going to pray about some things. Sam's going to lead us. You don't have to even pray out loud if you don't want to, but it's just great and encouraging to come together and be a part of a community together in prayer. So I encourage you guys to come after. We have childcare available, so if you're a parent and you dropped off your kids and you want to come, please pick them up. And then drop them back off. It's starting about 20 minutes after service. So make sure just don't leave them down there. Pick them up and check them back in afterwards, just so you guys know that about what's coming up. But something so awesome. Last Thursday, we hosted a table at the Pregnancy Help Center fundraiser. If you guys don't know, we've been supporting and partnering with the Pregnancy Help Center for a while, and their goal is to help women who are in the middle of crisis pregnancies. And they do such an amazing job. We got a chance to hear a story of a lady that they had recently helped named Isabella. She was in the midst of a crisis pregnancy for sure. She already had one kid and she was in the middle of an abusive relationship. And she came to the Pregnancy Help Center just for help in this situation. And what they do is such an amazing job as, instead of, their kind of tagline is, instead of removing the crisis of the pregnancy, why don't we move the things around it in your life that make it a crisis? Right? So they help this lady. They remove those things in her life. They give her counseling and helped her get out of that relationship. They provided her housing so that she could have her baby. And today, she was actually at the meeting. She had a 3-month-old baby. And it was just such an amazing thing that the Pregnancy Help Center is doing on a daily basis. Right? It's just incredible. It's literally day to day they're having these opportunities and these incredible stories of these ladies. We're just so excited to be partnering with them. We have opportunities for you to get more involved with them if you'd like. Coming up this year, we're going to have a gift thing during Christmas time. There's also another baby boutique coming up, and we'll have more information on that following. But man, just a great organization. We want to spotlight them and just remind you guys to be praying for them. They have these things going on every single day, and we may only hear about it about once a month or whatever, but man, they're having those experiences every day. So continue to pray for them, and just keep tuned for the ways that we can support and serve them coming up. All right, finally, we're going to go into our time of greeting. Cornerstone, it's really important for us to have fellowship and just community together, not just hey, I know 2 people's names at church. So I encourage you to stand up, greet someone new that you don't know, tell them how disappointed you were at the UCLA game yesterday.
Or we are going to call you guys back for a little bit more worship. As much as we love seeing you guys all hang out and talk to one another, it's an important thing to us, but worship also is. So we're going to sing a little bit. Hi, Tawny. All right. All right, we're going to sing a little bit more, guys. It's falling from the clouds, a strange and lovely sound. I hear it in the thunder and the rain. It's ringing in the skies like cannons in the night. The music of the universe plays. We're singing, you are holy, great and mighty. The moon and the stars declare who you are. I'm so unworthy, but still you love me. Forever my heart will sing of how great you are. Beautiful and free. Beautiful and free, the song of galaxies. It's reaching far beyond the Milky Way. Let's join in with the sound. Come on, let's sing it out as the music of the universe plays. We're singing, you are holy, great and mighty. The moon and the stars declare who you are. I'm so unworthy, but still you love me. Forever my heart will sing of how great. All glory, honor, power is yours. Amen. All glory, honor, power is yours. Amen. All glory, honor, power is yours forever. Amen. We're singing, you are holy, great and mighty. The moon and the stars declare who you are. I'm so unworthy, but still you love me. Forever my heart will sing of how great. We're singing, you are holy, great and mighty. The moon and the stars declare who you are. I'm so unworthy, but still you love me. Forever my heart will sing of how great you are. Pray with me. God, I thank you for the opportunity to be servants. I pray that as we grow in our walks with you, and as we grow in our knowledge of you and our understanding of you, that would be our prime objective, God, that we would be servants before anything else. God, I pray that you bless Sam as he shares with us this morning, and I pray that we would open our ears and our hearts to what you have prepared him to share with us. In your name, amen.
Good morning. Hope everyone's doing well, having a good day. Well, isn't the weather great? Isn't it great, right? We've been like getting smothered. It's been hot and like, where's fall? And it feels like it's finally here, I hope. But man, the weather's great today, right? It's wonderful. So this is why we live here. part of the reason. But yeah, so today we're continuing a sermon series on generosity. And so we're talking today about generosity. Next week, we're going to talk about generosity, and it is Daylight Saving Day. And so it's a perfect time for you to be here on time. So we sometimes don't all get here on time. And so next week, you can all be here on time. An hour early. Be here an hour early. So, and then the next week, actually, November 12th, we have a special guest, Keith and Sarah Nigenfind. They're missionaries with the Christian Mission Alliance, which we are a part of, and they're missionaries to Thailand. And they're an incredible couple. They have 2 little kids, but he's going to be sharing up here. In fact, and his wife, Sarah, is going to be sharing downstairs with our kids. And so if you have little kids, it'd be a great opportunity for them to hear what is life like in Thailand? What does it look like there? And so they've been kind of out in the sticks in Thailand. They're going to, I think, be moving back to the big city. But anyway, they're a great couple, so that will be November 12th. But right now we're in the middle of a series on generosity. We started last week. We're going to talk about this week and the next few weeks about really what it means to be generous. And we started last week. I want to read this verse that we started with. It's 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 9. And this is kind of what we're basing our message off of and this series off of. And it says this, 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 9. It says, "For you know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, that though he was rich, yet for your sake he became poor, so that through his poverty you might become rich." And this is the idea that we're talking about, is that the reason that we are generous is because Jesus has been so generous to us. That is the reason that we give generously. It is an overflow, right? It's not a guilt. It's not an obligation. It's not because I have to. That generosity, biblical generosity, should be understood as something that it's a response. I'm giving back because Jesus has been so good to me. And so that's kind of what we talked about last week. And this week we're going to continue on in that. And so it's important for us to understand that as our base. The reason that we're generous is because Jesus Christ has given us so much. Right? We talked about last week, it's not just salvation. Maybe you're a Christian, maybe you're not. Maybe you're like, I just came with a friend, or I'm here I've been coming for a while, I'm not really sure about Jesus. And so it's not based on Jesus was not only generous in our salvation, but every single thing we have as a gift, right? That we can breathe is a gift from God. That I have skills and abilities and I can get a job, that's a gift. That I have a family, that's a gift. That I have children, that's a gift. That I have a house to live in, that is a gift, right? That I can enjoy pizza, that is a gift, right? That I can enjoy exercise, that is a gift. That I can enjoy hobbies and activities, like all those things, everything we have in life is a gift. And we need to understand that God has been so generous to us. And so our generosity, especially as Christians, is an overflow. It's saying, Jesus, thank you for what you've done for me, and I want to give back in response. And so that is the idea of generosity. And so if you're following along your notes, we have notes in there. You can write your, kind of fill in the blanks. Sometimes I think it helps us remember a little bit more. But the thing is, in your notes is this, that there's a difference between giving and generosity. Right? There's a difference between giving and generosity. And I think we all understand. Let me explain that a little more. Let me read this verse. Proverbs chapter 23, verse 6 and 7. And the book of Proverbs is just full of lots of wise sayings and statements. Proverbs chapter 23, verse 6 and 7, it says, "Do not eat the food of a begrudging host. Do not crave his delicacies. For he is the kind of person who always is thinking about the cost. Eat and drink, he says, but his heart is not with you." Right? It says, here's a guy who invites you to their house, says, oh, enjoy dinner, but he's just counting the cost. He's cringing at every single bite. You go out to eat, and he's like, oh, man. He's thinking, hey, get whatever you want. He wants to act generous, but then, you order, something that's, not on the, sandwich-only menu. You order, a steak or, a fish, and he's like, oh. Just, cringing. There's a difference, and this says, don't take that from a guy because he's not actually being generous. He wants the appearance of generosity without being generous. Right? There's a difference between giving and generosity. This passage describes it real clearly. Here's a guy who's giving you, inviting you to dinner. Here, let me give you dinner, but he's not generous. There's not a heart that says, oh, I want to give this to you. It feels like an obligation. It feels like a requirement. It feels like here's something that I have to do, right? That people who are generous, they love to give. They love to lavish things on others. They love to give it away, not because they have to, not because of obligation, not because of guilt, not because what everyone else is giving, so gosh, I better give too or else I'm going to look really selfish. Generous people say, no, I want to give. It's within me, right? And we know people like that who just like, they just love to give, right? You go out to eat and they're like, no, let me pay for it. Let me, and you're like, no, they're like, no. No, and you're like, please, no, I'm going to pay for it, right? They're generous. There's a difference between that and being the guy who's like, hey, let me pay for it. Hey, thanks, right? And it's like, I want to give the impression of generosity without being generous. We understand there's a difference. There's a difference between giving and generosity. Biblically, there's a big difference between that, right? You drive around maybe your neighborhood, right? And every once in a while, you see like someone's moving, and there's a couch or a table in front of their house, and it says free. Your thought is not, oh, dang, those people are so generous. You're like, you know what? They don't want to take it to the dump. They don't want to take, it's so much easier to put it there and have someone take it than me load it up in the truck and take it to the Salvation Army and them say, sorry, we don't take furniture, take it somewhere else. And you're like, right, that's not generous. Hey, it's giving. They're giving away a couch and it's helpful for someone, but that's not necessarily generous. Now, if they went out and bought a brand new couch and said, let me give it to you, it's free, that feels pretty generous. But hey, I got new furniture, I need to get rid of this stuff, I'm going to put it in my front yard, right? We understand there's a difference between giving and between generosity. Or like your kids, maybe they're having a canned food drive at school. They're like, hey, we're collecting canned foods. And you're like, okay, let's find, where's the canned eggplant and the Spam? Let's give all of that to them. Where are the cans that we never use? They're in the back and they're probably expired, but at least we can give, right? There's a difference between giving and generosity. We understand that. And I think that's an important thing for us to understand, that it's not just our stuff with our finances. There's a big difference between giving and really being generous. Right, the next in your notes is this, that we understand, right, Jesus, he gave everything. The example that we just read in 2 Corinthians chapter 8, right, that Jesus, though he was rich, became poor, so through his poverty we would also become rich. He gave everything. And the next thing you notice is this, that generosity is always sacrificial. To be generous, by the definition, actually means that I'm giving something of myself to someone else. It's actually a sacrifice. It's going to cost me something. Generosity is always sacrificial. It always costs something. We see that in Jesus, in this example that we've been talking about for this series, that Jesus sacrificed everything. That though he was rich, though he was in heaven, though he was being worshiped by all creation, he had everything. And he left his position and his place in heaven to come and be with us, to save us, to love us. Sacrifice. Generosity is always a sacrifice. In fact, Jesus points this out. We see this in the Bible in a couple different places, but Mark chapter 12, verse 41 to 44, it's going to come up on the screen. You can read in your Bible as well. This is just, I think, a great example. It's about this woman, right? About this woman who gives incredibly sacrificially. Mark chapter 12, I'm going to read this. It says this. Jesus sat down opposite the place where the offerings were put in, and he watched the crowd putting their money into the temple treasury. Many rich people threw in large amounts. Let me just say, this is kind of like weird. that Jesus is sitting there watching everyone put in their money, right? We often feel like giving is a very private thing. Jesus is sitting there like just watching everyone put their money in, seeing how much they're putting in, right? Just kind of funny. But poor, it says, so there's rich people that are coming in, and they're putting in large amounts of money. Lots of rich people are putting in lots of money into the temple treasury. But a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins worth only a few cents. It would be like someone here dropping a nickel into the offering or a couple pennies. Like, really, this is what's going on. She's putting in a few cents. She's putting in a nickel. She's putting in a dime. It's a very minimal amount of money. And calling his disciples to him, Jesus said, "Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. They get out of their wealth. But she, out of her poverty, put in everything, all she had to live on." This idea that Jesus stops everything and says, whoa, 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 whoa. Look what's going on. I want you to recognize what this lady just did, the generous sacrifice she just gave. He says there's lots of rich people that are putting in lots of money. Lots of money is going in. But what Jesus recognizes, because he's able to see beyond and he knows all of her circumstances, he actually sees this lady gave everything she had. Her giving was incredibly sacrificial. And Jesus makes a big deal out of it. Because generosity is not about the amount that I give. Right? It's about the heart. If I am worth $1 billion, which I assure you I am not, and I give away $1 million, that is a lot of money. But that's not nearly what it would be for me to give away. I can't give away $1 million right now. But what if I gave away everything I had? It might not equal $1 million, but it would be everything I had. Right? There's a difference. We understand that. And Jesus is saying, look, she sacrificed everything. Generosity always is about sacrifice. So listen to David. This is King David, and King David's going to go, he's offering a sacrifice for himself and for the nation. And this is David and Goliath. Now he's the king. And listen to what he says. He goes to a guy, this guy Arona, and he says, look, I want to use your field, and I want to offer a sacrifice here. And this man Arona says, you know what, take it all. Here, king, take it. Take the field, take my oxen, you can use them to sacrifice. And listen to what David says. This is really interesting. 1 Chronicles 21, verse 24. But King David replied to Arona, no, I insist on paying the full price. I will not take for the Lord what is yours, or sacrifice a burnt offering that costs me nothing. This man Arona says, no, here, take it all. No, I'll give you the land, I'll give you the place, I'll give you the animals to sacrifice, I'll give you the grain to sacrifice. Here, just go ahead and do it. And David says, no, you don't understand. I'm not going to give anything to God that doesn't cost me something. If it's not a sacrifice, then I'm not actually giving it away. We understand this, right? You can give someone else's money away much easier than you can give away your money. Right? If I picked anyone out and said, all right, hey, you know what? We're going to give away $1,000, and I pick someone, I'm like, all right, you give it away. That's much easier than me saying, we're going to give away $1,000, and I'm going to give it away. Right? Everyone, yeah, no, okay. Everyone's like, I don't know. What? 1,000? He's giving away $1,000? What? Right, but we understand that there's a difference, that generosity is always sacrificial. It always costs us something. And if we're going to be generous people, then it requires that we're actually sacrificial. And so how do we become these kind of people? How do we do this, right? We said last week that generosity, it's about our time, our talent, our treasure. That's what it is to be generous, is we give those things away, and to be actually sacrificially give away our time. Sacrificially give away our talents, our abilities, our skills. Sacrificially give away our treasure, our finances, our money, our stuff, to be able to bless and help other people. Like, this is what it is to be generous. And so generous people actually give sacrificially. And so how do we do this? How can we do this? One, that's what I want to kind of wrap up with the rest of our message, is really talking about how to give generously. How can we do this? How can we be people that do this well? And I think I've shared this before. I got this from a guy named Andy Stanley, who's a pastor out in Georgia. And I love this. He actually talks about three words that all begin with P, alliteration, right? So 3 different ways that we can actually give generously. And how can we be generous givers? And I think these are actually really, I want to share them again. I've shared them before because I actually think they're really helpful. It's helpful in us understanding how can I be generous in what I give. One of the things we need to understand about generous giving, the reason that generosity requires us to be sacrificial is because, in particularly with money wants to put a hold on us, doesn't? Like money, like it gets into us. And as soon as something becomes mine, like there's some sort of spiritual connection between me and my stuff. We're going to talk about this a little bit next week, so I don't want to go too far into it. We all understand this, right? You get a brand new phone, and all of a sudden, there's something about it that gets into you, and you're very possessive about it. Like your kids could play with your old phone all the time. You got your new phone, you're like, don't touch it. Get away. Don't go wash your hands. Don't get your greasy hands on my new phone. Because there's something about that, right? That our stuff, there's a spiritual element that when we have stuff, it's hard. It owns us. And so sacrificial giving is actually a way to battle the way that money gets into us and has a hold on us. As we give it away, we can't give and be greedy at the same time. And so how do we do this well? How can we actually be generous givers? How can we be generous people? 3 thoughts on this. The first thing is this, and it's in your notes, is priority giving. Making giving a priority. Making generous giving a priority. Right? Generous giving will not happen until you make it a priority. Until you say, look, I'm going to do this. We all have good intentions, but until we actually make it a priority and say, I'm going to do this, we don't make it happen. Right? Some of you guys are going through Financial Peace University right now. And one of the things, Dave Ramsey, we've been doing that, the class here, and Doug's been leading that, and watched some Dave Ramsey videos if you're familiar with him, and phenomenal teaching. One of the things that he talks about is just, being just ruthless in getting rid of debt. Right? And but he says, look, until you actually do it, your money just goes, we all know this, right? Your money just goes out everywhere. You're like, where did my money go? I had $1,000 that's not accounted for, and is it just McDonald's and Starbucks, and I went to eat and I bought a new pair of shoes? Where did this money go, right? It just slips away, it disappears. He talks about, look, unless you make it a priority, you're not going to save. Unless you make it a priority, you're not going to pay off your debt. Unless you make it a priority, you're not going to be able to generously give to other people. And the thing that we understand, if we want to be generous, we've got to make it a priority. It's got to be something like, this is important in my life. Right? And I think sometimes we say this, though, I'd like to be generous, and I will be generous one day when I make more money. But right now, I've got school bills I got to pay off, and I've got this debt, and I've got kids, you know how expensive kids are, and I've got all these things, and when I make more money, I'll be generous. And the reality is, if we can't be generous now, we're not going to be generous later, because generosity is not about an amount of money. It's not once I get rich, I become generous. In fact, the opposite is true. Do you know this statistically? If you make, this is not Christians, this is Americans across the board. If you make $50,000 or less, statistically, you give away 6% of your income to charity. If you make over $200,000, you give away less than 4% to charity. You make more and give a smaller percentage, right? But we say, but when I make more money, then I'll give it away, and that's just not true. We begin to give away more money when we make it a priority. We say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it a priority. I'm going to make it happen. And let me say, like, this is a hard thing, isn't it? It's a hard thing. But the reality is, we want to make things priorities, but things always come up, right? This is important to me, but something else always comes up. And it's not just with money, it's with like time, it's with like, and until we actually say, I'm setting aside and I'm gonna do this, something always fills up our time. So I'm going to school right now. I go to Talbot University. It's a seminary, and I graduated with a degree in biblical studies like 18 years ago, and I've been like, well, maybe I'll go back for the last 10 years. I'll go back to school. Maybe I won't. Maybe I don't know. And something always comes up, whether it's kids or whether it's... And so about 2 years ago, I finally said, you know what? I'm just going to go to school. And once I registered, you know what? I'm like, I just don't have time for school. And once I registered, you know what? I have time. And I make it happen. And I will tell you, it's crunched and it's hard, but you know, it happens. But until I made a priority and said, this is what I'm going to do, something always came up. And that's the way it is with life, right? That's the way it is with our money, right? Or saving, right? Saving if you have like maybe even at like a 401k or retirement, or maybe it's even at a work thing, right? If you give to some sort of retirement, it probably comes out before you, at work, before you even get paid, right? That way I don't touch it. I can't spend it. I've made it a priority by saying this money is absolutely inaccessible. My boss actually takes it away and puts it in some account, and I don't ever get to see it. Because I've made it a priority. Because it's important. And the same is true, I think, with giving. We need to make it a priority. But it requires sacrifice, doesn't it? Giving requires sacrifice. Let me tell you, when Stacy and I were young, like, this is something that we both grew up in families where giving was important. We grew up in Christian homes. That was just part of what we did. But when we were first married, we said, you know, we're going to give. Like, that's important for us. And so that was just something that we did. The very first check that we ever wrote every single month was to giving. It was to the church. It was this is our money that we've set aside. Very first check, and we'll figure out how to make it on the rest. And I will tell you, especially when we were young, newly married, the kids, we had 2 little kids and been married a few years, and I worked, and it was important that Stacy stayed home and that she took care of the kids. That was just a value that was important for us. And a lot of our friends had a lot more money than we did, and had 2 incomes or just had higher paying jobs. And I will tell you, there were so many times, like 90% of the time, people said, you want to go out to lunch? Sorry, we can't. Sorry, we can't. You want to do this? Sorry, we can't. You want to do this? Sorry, we can't. And we really, really wanted to. But we just couldn't, because that was a priority we made. We said, you know, we've paid this money. We've given it away. Here's what we have to live on. And I'm not going to take from that to go out to eat. That's already gone. It's already spent. We made it a priority. And one of the best ways to make generosity a priority is say, I've already set that aside, and it's untouchable. I make it my first check, or I know like probably most of you don't even have checkbooks. If you're like under 30, you're like, checkbook? What in the world are you talking about? But you can get like recurring accounts, right? You can get a recurring withdrawal. In fact, at the church, when we do giving, that's something, you can actually set it up monthly. I love to write a check to say, this is, and that's just me and whatever, but Stacey and I, like, we want to write a check and say, look, this is like, we're actually giving, but whatever, that's just me. But I think it's important that if we want to be generous in our giving, we need to make it a priority and say it's important. The second thing is percentage, right? If you want to be generous givers, we give a priority. The second thing is that we percentage giving. That actually say, I'm going to set aside an amount and I'm going to give that away, right? And it's different than spontaneous giving. And we say, well, when someone asks me for something, or when I feel maybe urged to do something, or maybe emotionally I feel like, oh, I really want to give to that. Or maybe I feel guilty and I want to give to that. Right? Spontaneous giving is one thing, but percentage giving is actually saying, no, I've already created in my budget, here's what I'm giving. I'm actually giving this away. The Bible actually talks about like a tithe. The Old Testament, right, talks about a tithe. And the word tithe actually means 10%. That biblically, the Old Testament says, well, we give away 10% of our wealth to help and bless. It would go to the church, it would go to the temple, it would go to take care of those things. Like, that's what we do. And it was actually giving it back to God. The understanding was we give it back to God because God has blessed us so much. And we would give back 10%. Now, some of you are like, 10%? That was ridiculous. Right? But that was the biblical concept. Now, some people say in the New Testament, they're like, well, the New Testament doesn't talk about tithing. It talks about generosity. And you know what? If you say that, you're absolutely 100% right. The New Testament actually doesn't talk about tithing. It talks about generosity. And so if you say, well, I don't want to tithe, I want to give generous giving because I don't see it in the New Testament, then I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm 100% okay with that. However, let me say this. If we say, well, you know what? In the Old Testament, it talked about tithing, giving a tenth. But now in Jesus Christ, now that He saved us, I can give generously. So I generously, instead of giving 10%, I want to give 1%. Well, that doesn't seem generous. It seems like I want to be generous in giving less. So if you say, hey, the New Testament doesn't talk about tithing, I'm okay with that. But don't use the excuse of generosity to say, well, I don't want to be generous. I actually want to give you less, God. So I think it's important that we understand that we give a percentage to God. And the idea of giving a percentage is that we actually set aside an amount and say, this is what I've already planned on. Instead of, well, I'll be generous if it comes up. No. I'm going to be generous all the time. I've planned on generosity. There's a big difference than saying I'll be generous when something comes up, as opposed to I'll be generous, I'm planning for generosity. I think that's an important difference. And so let me just say this on generosity. If you're like, maybe you've never given. Stacy and I both grew up in homes where, like, hey, first time I had a job, like that, I just gave 10%. That's just what I did. In fact, I think I was even giving maybe more than that at one point. Like, and that was just something that it was like, that was just like bred into me. And I will tell you, it is harder to give and start giving when you have like a real adult job. I was working at the Burger King, and I made whatever, I don't know, minimum wage, it was like $3.25 or something like that, and it was a very minimal amount of money, and it was easier to tithe. Now, if you have like a full-grown adult job, benefits, and all that kind of stuff, boy, to say, now I'm going to start giving away 10%, that may be a hard thing for some of you. And let me encourage you in this. I really believe that biblically, I always want to give 10%. I think that's a great starting point. If you say that is absolutely unfeasible for me, let me encourage you to start somewhere. Let me encourage you, okay, I'm going to start somewhere. 5%. I'm going to maybe, and I think one of the things is maybe I've just got too much debt. I've just overspent too much. Financial Peace University, we're doing it right now. We'll probably do it again next year. It is phenomenal. If you can't take it here, take it at another church, another place, do it online, because it is a great ministry that helps with maybe even getting out of debt, paying off bills, understanding how to use my finances, how to save. It is excellent. Being able to get your finances under control is a big deal. So let me say, if you're like, hey, I can't do 10%, that's impossible. Let me say, start somewhere. Commit to a percentage, make it a priority, start somewhere and say, okay, I'm gonna start giving. And I'm gonna make it a priority. I'm gonna make it important. I'm gonna do it. Start somewhere. And the last thing is this, is that we would just be progressive in our giving. That we would be progressive. And the idea behind this is that we would continue to grow in our giving. Biblically, 10% is not the ultimate goal. In the Old Testament, that wasn't like, hey, one day I hope you can get to 10%. It was like, that's what everyone gives. You give 10%, and let's give beyond that. Let's grow and give beyond. I was telling you last week, right? I was talking about Rick Warren. Rick Warren, the pastor of Saddleback, Rick Warren, who wrote The Purpose-Driven Life. And he is just, I was telling you about how, if you weren't here last week, he's just made an incredible amount of money on his book, The Purpose-Driven Life. He and his wife before were very generous. Now they're even more so. That he gives away over 90% of his income he gives away. In fact, he paid back his church for the previous 25 years that they'd been paying him. They'd been, salary for 20. He said, you know what, I'm going to pay everything back. And now he works completely volunteer for his church of this enormous I don't know, 25, 30,000 person church, and he does it completely voluntarily. And he gives, and he gives, and he gives. Right? That increasing, now I'm not saying that we all need to be giving 90% of our income, but I'm saying, look, isn't that a beautiful thing? That we should try to increase. Maybe it's, hey, I gave 10%, and now I want to try to give a little bit more. A little bit more. I want to give 12%. I'd love to see if I could increase as my finances increase. As my wealth increases, as God blesses me more, I want to try to increase and give more. And let me say, some of you have been incredibly faithful for years and years and years in giving. And let me encourage you that if you've, like I've been tithing for the last 20 years, let me encourage you to consider, maybe I want to continue to give to increase. And not because someone needs my money, but because it allows us to gain freedom from our money. Money wants to get its hooks into our heart. And as we give away, what we're saying is, this is a big deal. What we're saying when we give away our money is, God, I trust you. God, I trust your way more than I trust my money. Because do you guys agree, like, having a lot of money makes us feel secure? Having a lot of money in our bank account, having a house paid off, having a big retirement and it's growing, increasing, somehow it gives us the idea of security, right, and safety. However, when we give and we're generous in our giving, we're actually saying, no, you know what? My security and my safety is not in my wealth. It's not in my stuff. It's not in my possessions. I understand that God holds everything. God doesn't need my money. He owns everything, right? He doesn't need your money. But he wants your heart. And when I give, I'm saying, you know what? I don't trust my money for security and safety. I'm actually trusting Jesus. That my security, my safety, my livelihood, my hope, it's in Jesus, not in stuff. And that's why we give generously. And so my hope is that we would continue to be a church that gives generously. Because as we do, not only are we able to do more and give more, but more importantly, something happens in our hearts. And we fall more in love with Jesus. We fall more in love with him. Oftentimes, one of the hardest things for us as people to give up is our money. Jesus, I'll give you my heart. And Jesus, I'll come to church. And I'll read my Bible. And I'll be kind to people. But just don't touch my money. It's a hard thing for us to get rid of because money wants to hold on to us. And so let me encourage us as we give. I want us to continue to be generous people who give not because God needs our money, because he doesn't. But we give because God has generously given to us, and we want to demonstrate our trust, our faith, and our love for him. So I'm going to invite our ushers forward, and I'm going to invite our worship team forward, and let me pray for us. God, I thank you for our time. God, I thank you for your word and just for the truth that you speak in every single area of our life, God, that it's not only the way we use our words and the way that we treat others, that we pray or that we read our Bible, but God, you even get down to the point of how we use our money is a spiritual thing. And God, I pray that for us as a church, that we would truly be generous givers, that we would be sacrificially generous, joyful givers. Not because we have to, but because we want to. Because it's an overflow of what you have done for us. Thank you, Jesus, for your sacrifice. Thank you for your death on the cross that brings us freedom. Thank you that though you were rich, you became poor so that we could become rich, that we could be saved, that we could find life in you, Jesus. And I pray as we give that we would be able to give joyfully. As we worship, as we sing, we would worship joyfully. We pray this in your name, Jesus. Amen. Well, as we continue to sing, as we continue to worship, our ushers are going to receive our offering. If you have one of those communication cards, maybe it's you were new today or you have a prayer request, something, that's a great opportunity to drop that in. And just a reminder, generosity should be joyful. We've been talking about money, and we're going to receive an offering, but if there's like guilt, if there's shame, if there's obligation, God doesn't want you to give out of guilt and obligation. He wants you to give joyfully. So I want to give you that freedom. If you're like, I don't want to give it all and I feel like I'm supposed to now, please don't. Mill over this and let God work on you. I want a changed heart. That's what God desires for you. Let's sing together.
Savior say, thy strength indeed is small. Child of weakness, watch and pray. Find in me thine all in all. Lord, now indeed I find thy power in thine alone can change the leper's spots and melt the heart of stone. Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. Before the throne I stand in him complete. Jesus died my soul to save. My lips shall still repeat. Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. Oh, praise the one who paid my debt and raised his life up from the dead. Oh, praise the one who paid my debt and raised his life up from the dead. Oh, praise Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. In the valley, oh God, you're near. In the quiet, oh God, you're near. In the shadow, oh God, you're near. Am I breaking? Oh God, you're near. You're near. Oh God, you never leave my side. Your love will stand firm through all my life. Am I searching? Am I searching? Oh God, you're near. Am I wandering? Oh God, you're near. When I feel alone, oh God, you're near. Am I breaking? Oh God, you're near. You're near. Oh God, you never leave my side. Your love will stand firm through all my life. Height nor depth nor anything else could pull us apart. We are joined as one by your blood. Hope will rise as we become more than conquerors through the one who loved the world. Height nor depth. Height nor depth nor anything else could pull us apart. We are joined as one by your blood. Hope will rise as we become more than conquerors through the one who loved the world. Oh God, you never leave my side. Your love will stand firm through all my life. Oh God, you never leave my side. Your love will stand firm through all my life.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning. I hope that we would go out and be generous this week and be generous people and live lives of overflowing generosity for what Christ has done for us. We're going to have prayer partners down front, and if you need to pray, they would love to pray with you. Also, we have a prayer meeting afterwards, 11:30, about 20 minutes. The big reminder is if you have kids, you need to go pick them up, take them out for about 20 minutes, and then we'll have childcare downstairs afterwards. Just don't leave your kids there for like 30 minutes, and yeah, that'd be great. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful week.